Good morning or afternoon, depending on what class period it is. Today we're going to start talking about persuasion, and all of fourth quarter is going to focus on persuasion, and so we need to talk about good and bad ways to persuade somebody to do something. Today we're going to discuss logical appeals. Logical appeals started during the Greek era. Aristotle studied how people think and speak and how they communicate, and he came up with 3 different ways that individuals can persuade somebody to do something or feel something. So today we're going to go through those 3 ideas, and you're going to answer questions on a Google form. Now, I recognized as I was making this that Google Forms does not save as you continue through this, and since I've never done this lecture this way before, I decided to have you submit after each section. That way it saves your progress and you can go back and edit your answers if you don't get completely done. So, hopefully that makes sense. Once again, when you click on the Google form, you'll answer those 4 questions, you'll hit the submit button. Then when you're ready to answer the next set of questions, you'll hit Edit My Responses and go back and flip through the sections until you get the one that you are currently on. So today, we are going to discuss ethos, pathos, and logos. There are good ways to argue, and there are bad ways to argue. Logical appeals are methods or ways to persuade someone based on evidence and/or reasoning. These are good ways to argue. They're good ways to prove a point. We've seen some of these before in some of our commercials that we were analyzing. You'll have to think about times when those commercials either made you feel something or those commercials made you think about the facts that were on the commercial themselves. The reason I cover logical appeals in this class is because oftentimes we are being persuaded to think a certain way, buy a certain object, or feel a certain feeling based on those around us. And by understanding the logical appeals, we can now understand the art of persuasion. There are 3 different types of logical appeals. The first of those types is ethos. Ethos means credibility or expertise. We'll get into that a little bit more on the next slide. Credibility means that somebody has the community behind them. Those around them believe what they say. They are credible. Expertise relies solely on a person's experience or education. Pathos means emotions or feelings. Emotions can be very persuasive with the individual, and they are definitely useful in persuasion. In order to use emotion, we must first understand how we feel about the topic and how we can maybe make somebody else feel the same way. The last is logos. Logos means facts and logic. These are items that do not change on a whim. Rather, they change over time with research and effort. Ethos means character in Greek. This means you are relying on what the person's experience is to determine that what they're saying is true. People only have ethos in areas that they are considered experts in. There are 2 ways you can gain ethos. The first is through education. For example, a doctor has ethos, but they only have ethos in the area they studied in school. For example, you would not want your foot doctor operating on your brain. Equally so, those doctors go to school for many years to figure out how to be an expert in that area. Those with education don't automatically have ethos, but it is definitely a means for that individual to carry credibility. The second way is through experience. An example of this would be a mechanic who has worked for 15 years in the field. He or she has seen several different types of vehicles, has worked with their hands, has been in the field to evaluate and examine your car. You would not want your pediatric doctor to fix your car, just as you would not want your mechanic to fix your brain. They both have ethos. They both have credibility. They both have expertise. They cannot have expertise in areas that they are not experienced in or not educated in. Both of these individuals carry ethos. They just carry it in a different way. The next logical appeal is pathos, and pathos means emotion. This means a person is trying to make you feel, as a listener, something. The most common emotions used to persuade someone with ethos are fear, anger, and sadness. As humans, we initially begin with two ideas. We either fight somebody or fight them. We either run from somebody or we fight them. When somebody is afraid of something that they don't know is going to happen or is afraid of a situation, they behave in different ways that they wouldn't normally behave if they were relaxed. When somebody is angry, he or she also behaves in a manner that normally wouldn't happen. These are very persuasive techniques and cause people to act, to do something, to change something, because they do not want to feel this way permanently. Which is why sadness is another great persuasive technique. The brain wants to be happy. It releases chemicals on a regular basis to be happy. So when it is sad, it does its best to figure out ways around it. This technique can be used to persuade somebody. I'm sure you can think of many times that you either used anger, fear, or sadness to persuade somebody to do something. Logos is the last logical appeal. It means logic in Greek. This means that a person is using facts, statistics, or history to try and persuade the listener. Facts are items that do not change. They're items like gravity and the earth revolving around the sun. These items have been researched, experimented on, and proven over several years of time. Statistics have also been researched. These are numbers, percentages, and ranges of individual items. Researchers have looked at many other facts and compared them to one another to get statistics. A person might use history and persuasion when he or she is trying to see repetition in what could happen. He or she might try and show how events in World War II are similar or different from what is happening today. All of these are methods that I had you use for your former supporting details. These items can be researched in books or on the internet. I caution those who use the internet as their sole form of research simply because these facts may not always be true. Individuals must look into the source's credibility or ethos in order to succeed and find facts that work well for them. After you answer these questions here, you are going to be done with today's activity. I would review your answers and keep in mind that you will have a short quiz over this information tomorrow. Focus on how you see these play in your everyday life and how you might see those around you using these appeals to either make you think, feel, or act in a certain way.